Venus and star blessings, everybody. Let's talk about the new moon in Virgo coming up in a few days' time, a couple of days' time. Okay, so I just did a video yesterday on relationship matters. So if you want to know more about what's happening in the sky with relationship matters, this is, of course, tropical zodiac, where Venus, Juno, Goddess Lilith, and the South Node all align together. It's a very, very crucial passage, all aligning in Libra. I just did a video on that yesterday. So check that out if you want to know more about relationship stuff. I don't want to bring that in today. I just want to focus on the new moon in Virgo, although the truth of the matter is that energy is part of this new moon cycle as well. So do not separate the two. They actually are all working together, as it were. But instead of repeating everything I spoke about yesterday, I'd rather you check out that video to get the update on those matters. So the new moon in Virgo, as I said, aligns with these feminine divine goddesses, which speak specifically and strictly to relationship themes, which are quite challenging because Goddess Lilith is involved. And when Goddess Lilith shows up, she just cuts right through the BS. Your own BS, somebody else's BS, the world's BS, whatever, right? That's her job. She's an archetype that is pretty much cast out of society, as it were. And when she does show up, she likes to bring the raw essence of things, you know? So that part of us that might resist certain things that we are not able to see, that we are not prepared to see, whether that's in ourselves or others, which of course is in the realm of relationships. Doesn't matter what relationship it is. Relationships are relationships. They are all ruled by Venus. Now, in this picture, Juno is there as well. And Juno is a big-time feminine divinity that, yes, can speak to relationships in a man's chart and most certainly in a woman's chart. She is the principle of commitment, devotion and commitment to one partner. That's what she did in her story. I'm teaching a class next week on Juno and the Goddess series, as a matter of fact. So if you want to do a deep dive into these two extraordinary divinities, which are huge, so important, then catch that class with me. In addition to that, I have two courses available, two complete courses available. If you want to know what subjects they are, shoot me an email. And also I have a third course coming up this year sometime. It'll be maybe in about 2 months' time or something like that. I haven't worked out those details. That's going to be more in an advanced level. So if you want to study with me and you want to go into more advanced territory and material, then shoot me an email. Okay, so let me just share my screen and bring up the new moon chart. Okay, so here it is here at 11 degrees of Virgo. Of course, the planet that rules Virgo is Mercury, right? And where's Mercury? Right there in Leo. It just went direct just before this new moon. This is important because Mercury is the ruler to this new moon. So basically, guys, the party is over, Leo, right? And we're in Virgo territory. It's time to clean the mess up, literally. So is this new moon going to change your life? Probably not. But is it going to help you clean some things up, tidy some things up, organize some things up? Absolutely. Particularly because the ruler of it, which is Mercury, stationed direct just before the new moon. This is showing us that this is now, you know, this is the path sort of forward at this point in our life, okay? And Mercury is, although it's not aspecting the new moon. It is the ruler of the new moon, and it recently went direct. So that makes Mercury quite important. The other thing that I wanted to sort of say as well is, of course, all of you probably are aware that you always need to look at where does this new moon land in your own birth chart, right? And every new moon is a new beginning, for sure. How that new beginning might speak to you, might influence your life, is always going to have to do with your vibration, your map. This is a map. Your birth chart is a map of your soul. So everything is, no matter what's going on in the heavens, in the sky, it is always, it has to correspond to your own birth chart, to your life story. Now, new moon in Virgo, for instance, a new moon in Virgo, for some people at this point in time, might be a time where they start a yoga teacher training course, for instance, right? Because, you know, if we think, well, what rules yoga? It would be Virgo, for sure, hands down. Somebody might start some sort of new diet, health routine, exercise routine. The very typical external, if you like, aspects of Virgo. But Virgo goes much, much, much deeper, okay? So with Virgo, because it is one of the most complex archetypes in the zodiac, and I've said this over and over again through the years, because it absolutely is. There are 3 signs in the zodiac where there is a distinct transition that occurs with what we identify as the ego. And I'll tell you what that is. I did a two-part video about 6 years ago on this, and I might redo it because it's so old. It's pre-Zoom. It was done on my phone, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I think I'll just redo it. But here's a recap, just to remind you of where we are at in the wheel relative to the sun's position, and in this case, a new moon as well. So sun and moon together. Virgo, in terms of the ego identity, ego personality, is what we would call ego denial. That's one part of the complexity of where the ego takes a downfall. Because at Leo, which is just before Virgo, that's when we are completely self-actualized and completely in our center, our personality, our gravity of center, our assurance and confidence of who we are, and the person that we are, how we have developed, how we express ourselves, how we shine our light, our personality, our radiance, our energy, you know, all of the Leo stuff. And when we get to Virgo, that's, you could kind of think of it as like a pyramid, okay? And Leo is right up the top there, at the top of the pyramid, you know, shining in all its glory, ruled by the sun, Apollo as well, the light. When we get to Virgo, that pyramid, it inverts. So Virgo takes us way down to the bottom again and begins to show us, hang on a minute, you're not as perfect as you thought you were. There is still some work to do here and there and there and there, and on yourself primarily. So that ego denial function, if you like, or aspect of Virgo corresponds to that. It's the fact that we've come out of Leo in our all high and mighty shining position, and we are, it's like the carpet gets pulled out from under our feet, and we've landed in a space where we're seeing actually all of our imperfections, and every single one of us have these imperfections. But when there is strong Virgo energy in a person's natal chart or in the sky at the time, depending on how that's impacting your own chart, the energy of Virgo will be more pronounced. It's a very deeply complex sign. With Virgo, what I've often seen over the years, people who have sun in Virgo, for example, sometimes it can be moon in Virgo as well, but I've seen it so much more with sun in Virgo. You get 2 very distinct types, and underneath both these distinct types, the same issues still exist because the surface level is just one aspect of what you're seeing. And here's the two polar opposite reflections of the Virgo archetype. Their life is either complete fucking chaos. Everything is chaos. Everything is a mess in their home life, in their relationship life, in their work life, wherever. These are extreme examples, but I've seen them many times over. And on the other spectrum, the other side is the obsessive compulsive perfectionist. Everything has to be in its place. Everything has to be 100% tidy, clean, organized, etc., etc., etc. When you get that sort of obsessive compulsive nature in an individual, the same root issues exist that belong to the Virgo archetype, which is this deep, complex sense of sometimes it's often not feeling worthy enough, not feeling good enough, not having achieved enough, not having done enough. I'm not doing enough work. I'm not, you know, I don't have my life organized. You know, all these things start coming in like guilt, judgment, persecution, self-persecution, self-judgment, persecution on others, judgment on others. It's this deep whirlwind of complexities that go much deeper than what I've just said, but I'm not going to teach a class on Virgo today. But I just want to bring some of these themes up to remind us of what's coming up when Virgo is activated. The next most complex sign is Scorpio, and relative to this idea of the personality/ego going through a profound transition in the wheel of the zodiac, Scorpio would be ego death. Okay, so Virgo is ego denial. In other words, check in and see your imperfections. It's not about beating yourself up, don't get me wrong. There is no denying with Virgo that we must do things better. We must find better ways of attending to this, of creating this, of this area of our life, cleaning this up, organizing this, finding better methods, finding better techniques, finding more useful ways. It's just part and parcel of Virgo. So it has to deny itself of that big, grand Leo, you know, personality ego. Otherwise, if we just stay in that full self-actualized Leo, almighty self, we're not going to see what we further need to work on. That's why Virgo is right after Leo, to remind us of that very fact. In Scorpio, it goes through an even deeper dive and into death. It has to completely transform the ego and the personality. In Virgo, it's working it all out. Work is the best word for Virgo. It's working things out, analyzing, reflection, introspection, psychoanalyzing, etc., etc. In Scorpio, it goes into the underworld and completely dies to be reborn. Again, for the purposes of this is all for the purposes of evolution. Without going into more about the Scorpio aspect, I'll go to the last sign. The last sign is Pisces. That's the other most complex sign in the zodiac. And at Pisces, relative to this idea of the ego transitioning through the will, at Pisces, it's ego surrender. Okay, so you've got ego denial, Virgo, ego death, Scorpio, and Pisces, ego surrender, which is the ultimate surrender, right, to the divine will, which most people cannot do. That's a fact. Not an opinion, it's a fact. So you can see from those three signs in the wheel, they are the most complex transitional points in the chart, in the wheel. At Pisces, that's the end of the wheel. That's where everything completes. We have to let go. So getting back to the Virgo new moon, as you can see here, Vesta is relatively close. Now, with asteroids, you do need to use a smaller orb, but we might say that Vesta here has actually got quite a prominent place because, first of all, one of her rulership signs is Virgo. So she's in her rulership position here. and she was closer to the sun just a few days ago, a few days before the new moon. So she's still there. She's part of this energy, okay? And what's Vesta about? I just did a class on Vesta last week. So if you want to deep dive on this mystical goddess, which is, it's not mystical woohoo la la land, okay? She's really profound because she speaks to our hardcore soul devotion, what we are going to really invest and devote ourselves towards. I think that's an important thing to understand or to process or to explore for each of us, right? So if you want to know more about Vesta, I have a class available. But in this scheme of things, I think she's just showing us relative to the new moon in Virgo, which, by the way, is opposite Saturn, but we'll get to that in a minute. This is an invitation towards really investing ourselves into what we need to clean up in our life at this point in time. For some people, that's going to be a very extreme story. For others, it's going to be somewhere in between. And for others, it's just going to be a natural progression of something that they have already been working on. They're just three examples, and there'll be other examples in between those three very distinct examples. So once again, it just depends on you and what's going on in your life, right? But Vesta's presence there is a real... it's a beautiful opportunity, actually, to really find a way to commit ourselves to something we wish to pay more devotion to in a Virgo type manner. The other thing that is reasonably close to this new moon is the asteroid Apollo, which I really like that Apollo is there, actually, because the opposition to Saturn, I'm going to go to that in a moment. Saturn is never easy. Let's not glamorize Saturn, because if we want to go to glamour, go to Neptune, and then you'll find yourself completely disillusioned for the most part. But that's another story. Saturn is very different to Neptune. The complete opposite realities, actually. Saturn is of this world. Neptune is not of this world. And the full moon coming up in 2 weeks after this new moon is going to be in Pisces and conjunct Neptune. So realistically, which is a great word for Virgo, this lunation cycle, which is what it is, it's a lunation cycle, what we are looking at for the next 4 weeks, for the next month, is a really prominent emphasis on the polarities of Virgo and Pisces, which is order and chaos, or order or chaos. Order and chaos, well, I say and because in some situations, in fact, many people perhaps would be, have a lot of order in this area of their life, and then in this area over here, it's pretty chaotic. And it's like, I don't even know how to go into that zone. I really don't know how to work on XYZ. It's just too freaking chaotic. There can be that experience. So you kind of stick to what you've already got in order, But the great thing about, let me just go back to Apollo for a minute. Apollo is the sun god. Apollo was an extremely profound divinity, especially in ancient Babylonian astrology, actually, and even in modern astrology, if you understand what Apollo represents. Apollo literally represents the light of the sun, the light of God, the light of consciousness, wisdom, creativity, art, all those other sorts of things, right? But he's the light. So he's bringing light to this new moon. Remember, a new moon is dark. You cannot see a new moon in the sky. It's a seed that's been planted, right? That's going to unfold over the next 30 days. Then it's going to blossom, when we get to the full moon, a big aspect of it will be seen. And then, as the moon continues up post full moon, it's going to then wane. The first part of the cycle is waxing, the last part of the cycle is waning, right? So these are all really important things to consider when you're thinking about the new moon versus just thinking, oh, new moon in Virgo, okay, I might just start a diet and, blah, 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 blah. Or I might, I don't know, start a new exercise regime, or I might start practicing this particular technique. I mean, those things are great, sure, you know, if something's calling you, but look at it in a bigger picture level as well. And that is that the Virgo Pisces polarity is completely emphasized over the next 4 weeks. So it is those polarities or those archetypes within us that are being woken up or activated or triggered for some people. And so it's going to show us where in our life we have chaos and where in our life we have order, or where we might need more order and more structure, and where we might need to be more realistic and practical instead of being lost in the dream Pisces, fantasy Pisces, illusion Pisces, disillusionment Pisces. Unfortunately, those words are more the obviously the challenging aspects of Neptune Pisces 12th house energy. But that's, you know, in this third dimension reality, for the most part, most of us experience Pisces, Neptune, 12th house through those filters. It's very, very common. Of course, the other very strong, important theme here relative to Virgo Pisces is forgiveness, Pisces. Less judgment, Pisces. Because Virgo, when it's in that anxious, distressed kind of position within, it spirals into chaos, and then everything is chaos, Pisces. And it becomes this storyline, you know, of I guess identifying everything that's wrong, you know, everything that's wrong with the world, everything that's wrong in my life, everything that's wrong in others. It's that negative critical side of Virgo. The upside to that, of course, is the ability to have really great critical reasoning skills, which is a very important thing to have in this world, especially in this day and age where there is so much deception, so much BS, so much purposeful deception, psychological, emotional manipulation and deception, which starts from the bigger systems and then it just trickles down. So we do need to have that Virgo in check from a really clean, more productive level, which is to use our mind to critically assess in a realistic and practical manner whatever it is we're assessing or reviewing or wanting to clear up or organize in ourselves and in our life. But we must, you know, with every sign, there's always a polarity. They're working in tandem. One is the shadow of the other. There's no one sign that works in isolation. That's why one sign is opposite another. So this polarity of Pisces is going to be a reminder of forgiveness, actually, and acceptance, forgiveness and acceptance of people's shortcomings, including our own. So look, it really is, you know, if not I would actually say probably the most complex polarity in the entire wheel, Virgo Pisces, the most complex. Think about it, right? From Aries ascendant, where the wheel begins, to Virgo, that's the bottom part of the chart, right? That's one half of the chart. And that's the human being, the individual, self-actualizing and developing into a human being. The second part, which is above the horizon from the 7th right through to the 12th, is that human being now actually bringing themselves out into the world and being involved in, connected to, concerned about humanity, worldly events, basically anything that's bigger than our own self, if you like, right? And then when you get to Pisces, it's all kind of game over. You know, it's where things finish. We finish everything there so that we can begin again at the ascendant. So can you see how much complexity is contained within Virgo and Pisces? Just think about that for a moment. Now, Saturn opposite the new moon. Ah, yeah, okay. I say that with a bit of a, you know, what's the English word? I've just forgotten the English word for, you know, when you breathe and go, it's kind of like, oh, Saturn, had enough of Saturn. It's a bit like that. Okay. We know that Saturn corresponds to the consensus reality, the status quo, our conditioned imprints, how we live in this world from the point of view of how we merge with and integrate with the conscious construct of reality. But Uranus is the one that helps us free ourselves from being completely conditioned and controlled by this version of reality. So don't forget that. And Uranus is going to station direct, not long after this new moon. But anyway, getting back to Saturn opposite the moon, this really shows us that, again, you know, the next 4 weeks really, the work of Virgo that's been asked of us in our life at this point is very fucking serious, because Saturn is opposite this new moon. It's for some people, it's going to be a lot more serious, basically because of the backstory and situations that are going on in their lives. Saturn is going to be the sober reminder of what you really need to clean up in your life. Now, will you do it? Who knows? Who knows? You know, a new moon cycle, as I said, is not going to change anybody's life, okay? These bullshit YouTube videos that you see online, oh, this Virgo new moon is the, you know, the ultimate new moon. It's going to transform and change your whole life. What a fucking load of shit. I can't believe people actually speak like that still. But, you know, that's what happens. The herd just follows. Now, it is a new moon that has got a very serious edge to it because of Saturn. So the downside to that will be the difficulty of perhaps some of our own fears or resistances that come up against us. Things that come up against us where we feel our hands are tied, or where we feel blocked, unable to move in the direction we wish to with this situation or with this person, for example, whatever it may be. But Saturn, as much as it is a hindrance, because it can make us feel quite limited in our options, quite blocked in certain ways. It can be authority. Saturn is always authority. Certain authoritative situations or figures, you know, coming in quite hard. It's an opposition. What are oppositions, right? They usually speak to, we are one energy and the other energy is generally polarized, until, of course, we can integrate the two. So the ultimate goal here is really to integrate that Saturn into this new moon cycle so that you can tune into Saturn from the point of view of commitment and discipline. You know, how can I actually be more disciplined and more committed to XYZ? What's the work that's been asked of me here? How can I find a way to do that, to honor that for myself? And it's just a reality check, you know, another way of putting it. It's a hardcore reality check of what needs to be really organized and cleaned up in our lives, okay, at this point in time, very simply put. Also, let me see. There's a square to Jupiter, but as I often say, you know, squares from Jupiter are really not, they're not a difficult energy, generally speaking, okay? Because, well, Jupiter is a benefic to begin with, okay? If Mars was closer to squaring that moon, that would be a much bigger concern because Mars is a malefic. Now, if you look at Indian Vedic astrology, they'll consider that as a square because their aspects are just by sign, not by orb and degrees. So it depends which window you look through. There's that too. But Jupiter's squaring this new moon, I don't see that as a problem. The difficulty here is Saturn. And the word difficult would be a key word for Saturn, period. We just cannot get away from the harshness and the coldness at times of this very harsh reality. So depending on, you know, where Saturn is transiting in your chart as well, it's obviously going that this new moon is going to highlight the house of where Saturn is in, because it's going to be right opposite, isn't it? So it's going to, you know, start a new cycle there for you relative to Saturn's position. Just a miniature little, you know, portal relative to transiting Saturn in your chart at the moment, which wherever it is, it's going to be there. It would have been there when Saturn leaves Pisces for about 2.5 years. So it's a, you know, a reasonable amount of time, right, to work through Saturn themes. And Saturn is a malefic, you know, so malefics are called malefics for a reason. Sure, that is more associated to traditional astrology. In evolutionary astrology, the word malefic is not even really used, you know. So Saturn does have a malefic nature to it, but the more we can understand the lessons that are being brought before us that we need to learn, the less we can experience the malefic nature of Saturn, if you like. And the other thing to really pay attention to here as well is if you're born during the day, Mars is your greater malefic. So this Saturn energy, generally speaking, for a lot of people wouldn't be as difficult, even though it's opposite the new moon. But people born at night, whose greater malefic is Saturn, because when you were born at night, Saturn is your greater malefic, then this Saturn energy relative to this new moon would be more challenging. Being born at night and having Saturn being your primary ruler, as it were, often shows up in matters of lack of boundaries, not knowing when enough is enough, not knowing when to say no. So this, for you guys that are born in the night, which I'm one of those people, Saturn opposite this new moon is also going to be another reminder of where you need to kind of rein in a bit, and you might have to say enough is enough on certain things that have been going on. And, you know, with Virgo is one of the archetypes as well, just on that external, I suppose, mundane, practical kind of level. It is that sign that works through, like it'll work through a list of things. A list is ruled by Virgo. When you write a list, that's a Virgo exercise. So Virgo is really great at being a taskmaster, you know, at ticking off that list and you know, getting things done in that way. It's also really, really great at getting the most out of very little. For example, somebody who doesn't have an income at the moment and just has, you know, very little cash flow coming in, It's the Virgos that know how to manage that better than anybody else. They can get so much out of so little. It's amazing at doing that, actually. I've seen that over and over again with different people that I know who have strong Virgo in their chart. So I guess what I'm saying here with this, because Saturn minimizes things, it cuts things off, it minimizes, it shrinks, contracts. So this is not, you know, Jupiter, where it's all bountiful, it's go and expand your horizons and, you know, fly to the moon and back. It's Saturn. It's no, let's bring it back to basics. Let's shrink things down a bit. Let's minimize things here over here. Let's have a look at where we might need to say no more of that. Let's have a look at where we need to say enough and enough is enough of that shit, and so on and so forth. And Virgo has a very similar component to it from the point of view of minimization, minimizing things. So this is a cycle of minimizing and using the resources available to you to get the best possible fruits by being realistic, Saturn, by being disciplined, Saturn, Virgo, and by just realizing the reality of the situation that you are actually in. And look, the truth is so many people are really struggling in so many different ways. We all know that, right? But financially, especially, you know, and unfortunately, that world of finance, which is such an illusion, it's ruled by Neptune, you know, it has people by the throat. You know, it defines so much of how we feel, you know, whether we feel safe, whether we feel comfortable, whether we feel happy as well, because we rely so much on this fake monetary system to provide for us the things in life that perhaps we enjoy or need. But even it's not even about enjoyment anymore, because it's really gotten to that such a extreme level where most people are struggling just to fucking pay their rent. I'm one of those people, you know. It's just a reality. I saw an astrologer this morning who she too is struggling, and she's created a GoFundMe page, you know, just to help her survive. You know, this is real for so many people. And it's you know, when you're just practicing astrology, like myself and many others, it's so hard to survive. So I can't tell you how hard it is, you know. But that's, you know, and that's a big test. You know, it's a big test of having faith, you know, Pisces, faith. And that reminds me, actually, in this new moon, you know, I think because Saturn is opposite this new moon and Pisces is there, Pisces is about having faith in things. But we've got to be realistic about the sort of faith we are having, Saturn. You know, this is Saturn in Pisces is about making our dreams concrete. Saturn rules concrete, dreams are Pisces, right? But with Saturn in Pisces, it's we just can't stay in fucking fairyland. You know, we don't live in fairyland. We don't all live in paradise. That's a fact. We've got to face where we are and what we have and what we have created and what we want to create moving forward with our resources, with our personal limitations, you know, whatever it is. We've all got limitations. We've all got challenges. And I think this cycle is just a pretty stark reminder of all those things. But on the other hand, it is also, if we're going to get the best out of this cycle, it's going to be what I said, minimizing in certain things, realizing and being very realistic about our life circumstances and how we can improve on those, you know, basically, in a nutshell. I think I will say enough there, because really that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to focus on this new moon cycle, which, once again, because Mercury is the ruler and it is direct, I think Mercury is going to assist us and assist this cycle. And also Apollo being conjunct this new moon can shed some light to the matters that are going to unfold over the next 4 weeks. For some people, you know, it's pretty serious matters, okay? And for others, not so serious, but yeah, it can be pretty difficult for certain individuals at this time. But I like Apollo there because Apollo always brings light. And we do have the darkness and we do have the light in this world and within us. We cannot choose one, prefer one over the other. We cannot only see one, because then we are either suppressing and or projecting. So we'll just see it everywhere else except in ourselves. And it's kind of ridiculous, because we have to accept that we have, you know, this dual side to us, just like this world of duality, night and day, cold and hot, etc., etc., man, woman. Although now there's a spectrum, that's another story. Yeah, so happy Virgonizing. As I said, the party's over, Leo. And now it's time to, yeah, just get some work done. And look, you know, Saturn does reward us when we can really do the work that's required. The work is going to be different for all of us. I know what that work is for me, and I've been doing it since Saturn entered my second house. So if you can do the work that Saturn asks of you, then Saturn is less malefic. And not only that, but you are rewarded by your own doing, by your own fruits, because Saturn wants us to do the work. And when we do the work, naturally we are rewarded, right? Because we end up having accomplished and achieved something, right? We've created something ourselves, you know, and that's an achievement. Whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is. It's different things for different people. There's no competition here and no good or bad, right or wrong. Because if we bring those things in, we'll forget it. Everyone's fucked up. Everyone's screwed. Right? If we look at it in that way, we have to look at it just, you know, from our own personal position, but have enough objectivity to also understand that we don't know what's going on in other people's lives and what they're dealing with. You know, there's a beautiful expression that says, be kind to everyone. You don't know what they are going through. You know, there's so many triggers and sensitivities. Somebody sent me a message on my Facebook astrology page, and all the message said was, you should smile more. Now, I don't smile all the time, because it's sort of hard to smile all the time while I'm trying to articulate and express what I'm trying to express. Sometimes I might laugh and sometimes I might smile because of the content of what I'm talking about. But imagine sitting there like that all the time. How fucking fake would that be anyway? But my point is that when that person sent me that message, I was having a really difficult day with this particular crisis in my life. And I was really upset that day. And when I saw that message, I thought to myself, how the fuck do you know what I'm going through and why I may not be smiling? You know, that it's little things like this that people do not think. People do not stop and think before they open their fucking mouth. That's Jupiter and Gemini, by the way, which I'm seeing so much of. That's just a little side note. Okay, check out the video on Lilith, Venus, South Node, Juno, because this alignment here is huge. And I've spoken about that very thoroughly in the previous video to this one. And I'll see you guys soon for more. Sending you new moon blessings. Do the work and you will naturally be rewarded. You can't not, because it's your own doing, right? And it's like there's something really I think anyway, I think there's something really satisfying when we create something ourselves, when we put in, you know, the work, when we invest in something. Vesta is there with this new moon. When we invest something to create something in our life, to do the work, there's a sacred journey within that as well, you know. There's something very satisfying on a number of different levels, you know, versus somebody just handing it all over to you in a silver platter. So everything is a work in progress, and everything is an opportunity to evolve, no matter how big the shitstorm may seem. See you guys soon. Sending you much love, and see you soon.